Hi guys, welcome to Karma's a Stitch. This is the February edition of our gift make along. So if this is your first episode or your first time watching our channel, what I'm doing is the first Sunday of each month for 2024, I'm putting out a video tutorial on a gift make, something that is quick and easy. And I'm not kidding when I say I had this done in a matter of 4 hours. And that was with interruptions in a house full of people. Very basic patterns that I will have available. If you would like to get the paper version, those will be available over on my Ko-fi account, which will be linked in the description box below. So what we're going to be making this week, like I mentioned earlier this week, if you are interested, there's 3 different sizes. I may have already put a picture in, I may not. For the small size, you will need, they're ball huggers, ball cozies. I was told ball sack was inappropriate. So pick a term, but this is what we're gonna make. And this pattern came very much from the Morrison scarf. Okay, the Morrison scarf is something that I've made several of. It is a free pattern on Ravelry. And I will have that scarf linked below as well. But I loved it so much, and it was such an easy pattern to memorize. And what a cute little thing. So there are 3 sizes. This is the large. There's 100-gram skein inside, and it is great for a center pull. Okay, center pull ball cozy. Then we have the medium, which is for 50-gram center pull. Okay, so I've got a 50-gram skein in this medium size one. And then we have the small, and I have a 20-gram skein in here, perfect for a center pull. Okay, so these are the 3 that I've made. Now, if you look at these 2 bottoms, this is the large, and this is the medium. Okay, so in the written pattern, the large has an open bottom, the medium has a pinhole bottom. Okay, and this medium one is the one that I did the tutorial for that you'll be watching today. So this is the bottom that we'll be doing in today's tutorial. The written pattern will have all 3 sizes, but it will have the open bottom for the small and the large. If you're interested in me including the pinhole for the small and the large, just let me know and I'll see if I can modify the written pattern that I have. Because right now, I'll show you, that's how I have the pattern written at this moment. I need to go put this up because this was all of my notes as I created the ball huggers, very much based on the Morrison scarf, but it was such a fun pattern and people have modified it in so many different ways to make, like the one I made is a circular, just as the pattern is written, it's a circle, and then and it has an open end on each side, and then the cylinder, right? It's a cylinder. It just folds down on itself and you have a scarf. It would be as if this was knit as a cylinder. Let's see if I can find a good, I'm sure it makes sense. I don't know why I'm feeling the need to show you, but if I were to knit this in the round and go round and round and round with it, right? I'll go round and round and round all the way around as a circle. And then when I'm done, it just folds in half on itself. And I have a double thick scarf. That's how the Morrison scarf is done. I've seen people that have put this into dishcloths. I've seen people that have put this into a 1-layer scarf. Sorry about that. So yeah, this little V pattern here is from the Morrison scarf that I've made several of. So if you are interested, that Morrison scarf pattern will be linked in the description box below, as well as a link to our Ko-fi account if you're interested in getting the written version of this. Today's tutorial will be for the medium which is this one right here with the closed bottom. Okay, so for these ball huggers, if you want to make the small one, okay, the main color I used 7 grams, and then the contrasting color, which is the yellow, I used between 2 and 3 grams. Okay, the scale was going 2, 3, 2, 3. If you're interested in making this one that the tutorial is demonstrating, this is the medium, and it used 8 grams of the main color and 3 grams of the contrasting color. And the large one, which has the open bottom, okay, the large one I used 15 grams of the main color and 8 grams of the contrasting color. So that's what we're going to be doing today. I hope you're excited. It's such a fun pattern, and they just go so quick. So you guys, let's get started. Okay, so let's take a look at what we need to make these ball huggers. All right, so I have my stitch counter, which I'll be using throughout, and a tapestry needle, which we'll need at the end. I'm using 2 contrasting colors. This mint green here I have 14 grams of. This is going to be my main color. And then this pink I have the 13 grams of, and this will be my contrasting color. I'm going to need a stitch marker to mark needle 1 as I'm working. And then I'm using a size 1 or a 2.25 millimeter, as well as a size 2, which is a 2.75 millimeter. Okay, I'm also going to be using one of my little handmade yarn bowls. It wasn't intentionally made as a yarn bowl, it was made as something else, but I use it as a yarn bowl now. So what I'm going to start with is my US ones. And I'm going to start with my main color. Okay, and you're going to want to keep a pretty long tail if you're doing the closed bottom that I showed you. So if you're going to do the closed bottom, make sure you have a pretty long tail so you can close it up. Now, this pattern, we're making the medium size, and if you saw the 3 different sizes, this is the medium one. All right. And with this pattern, we're going to cast on 10, and then we're going to join in the round. Now, when I join in the round, I tend to cast on 1 extra, and I'll show you why. It's because of how I join in the round. You do it how you'd like to, but I want you to see that that's why I'm going to be casting on 1 additional. So I'm going to cast on, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Oops. Drop that last one off. That didn't count. 9. 10, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. There's my 10, and then I do 1 extra, okay? And I still have a pretty long tail here. Now I'm going to divide my stitches amongst 4 needles. So the first needle, I'm going to move 4 over. There's 1, 2, 3, and 4. The next one, I'm I'm going to move 2 over. 1, 2. Third needle, I'm going to move 2 over. 1, 2. And my fourth needle, I have 3 left. Okay, so as I look at these, I want to show you that I have all of them. You want to make sure you don't twist them because you're going to join in the round, right? So make sure that none of them are twisted. And I'll zoom in here so I can show you what I'm talking about. So if you look here, I've got the knot portion, the inside edge of each stitch. Sorry, it's wiggling. The inside of each stitch, you can see on the inside of the circle. You see that? With no twists. So I'm going to join it right here. Okay, so if you're making one of the other ones, my extra stitch goes on the first needle. All right. Now, when I join in the round, what I do is I take the needle where my working yarn is attached, which will be needle 4, and I take needle 1, and I'm going to knit the first stitch on needle 1. Okay, this is my tail. And then I'm going to take the second needle or the second stitch on my right needle. I'm going to pull it over the needle that or the stitch that I just knit. And these are tight. These are tight little stitches and tiny little needles. So just don't get frustrated. Small circumference is always going to be a little bit fiddly. I've got that split, but I'm hoping, yep, I can pull it all the way off. Okay, so now, oops, where I had 4 stitches on needle 1, I now only have 3. Okay, you see that? I had 4 on needle 1, I knit 1, so then it was over on the right needle. I pulled 1 stitch off and over. Okay, so now it's joined in the round. I have an enclosed circle. Okay, so you've cast on, so tight and fiddly. Okay, super awkward, super difficult to try to manage. If you're not used to tight circumferences, it will get easier. Okay, so I've got it closed up. I've joined it in the round. I'm going to keep my tail out of the way as much as possible. And so now for round 1, I'm just going to knit all of the stitches. So here's needle 1, right? And I'm going to knit my first stitch. And then I'm going to put my stitch marker on, and that is going to mark needle 1. So each time I get to that stitch marker, I know I've completed a round. So for round 1, I'm just going to knit all the stitches. Like I said, tight circumference, it's gonna feel fiddly. So just focus on making sure you don't twist your stitches. Don't worry about what your other needles are doing. As long as nobody's twisting, you're just fine. Just focus on the needle that has the stitches on it that you're working with. Okay, so now I'm back to needle 1 and I know that because I've hit that stitch marker again. So round 2, is also just a knit round. See how my working yarn is getting wrapped around the tail end of that other needle? Just make sure you're not doing that. Make sure as I'm knitting these stitches on this needle, my working yarn is coming straight from its last stitch. Okay, so that was round 2. Round 3, we're going to knit in the front and back of all of the stitches. So I'm going to zoom in so you can kind of see what I'm doing. I'm going to knit into the front. This feels just like a normal knit stitch. I'm going to knit that, but I'm not going to drop it off of my left needle. Now I'm going to move my right needle to the back and I'm going to knit into the back loop of that same stitch. Knit that. Now I have 2 stitches on my right needle. Now I can drop off. Okay, move my stitch marker. Okay. I'm going to knit in the front. Okay, knit the front. Now I'm going to knit through the back of that same stitch. Then drop it off. Knit through the front. Knit through the back. Then I can drop it off. So where I had 3 stitches on needle 1, I now have 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Because I've doubled it, right? Because I did a knit in the front and back of 1 stitch. So what was 1 stitch is now 2 stitches. So here I am on needle 2 and I've got 2 stitches. If I knit in the front and back of this one, that'll be 2. If I knit in the front and back of this one, that'll be 2 more. So that'll be 4 stitches. See that? Now I've got 4. So I have 3 here. If I do a front and a back in each of these, I will end with 6. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So that is the end of row 3. So rows 4 and 5, we're just going to knit all the way around. Each stitch, we're just going to knit. making sure that my working yarn is coming straight from the last stitch that I knit, because sometimes it will get wrapped around a needle and then you'll have a big gap. So just make sure, I don't mean gap in your yarn, you'll just have a bunch of loose stuff and you'll be confused and you'll have to start all over with all the fiddly bits. Nobody wants to do that. So row 4 and 5, we're just gonna knit. Okay, so for row 6, I'm gonna knit front and back and then knit 1 all the way around. So I'm gonna knit the front and back of this first stitch on needle 1, knit front, oops, knit the front one, knit the back one. Now I'm going to knit 1 stitch. Now I'll knit the front and the back, and then I'll knit 1 stitch all the way around. And if you're making the medium one, when you get to the end of row 6, you should have 30 stitches if you're making the same size I am making. So rows 7 and 8, we're just gonna knit. Okay, so for row 9, I'm going to knit front and back, and then I'm going to knit 4. So when I am done with row 9, I should have 36 stitches. So knit front, knit back, and then knit 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Knit front and back, then knit 4 all the way around. Okay, so that is row 9. Row 10, we're going to knit all stitches. Row 11, we're going to knit front and back in all stitches. Okay, so you're basically doubling. You have 36 stitches to start right now. If you knit in the front and back of all 36 of those, you're doubling your stitch count. So you should end up with 72 stitches total. And if you want to have an even number of stitches on each needle, you're going to want to put 18 stitches. Once you've knit on the front and back, there's 2. If you want, you'll want 18 on each needle, and that will have them evenly distributed. So there's 3 and 4, 5 and 6, 7 and 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and 18. So I have 18 stitches on needle 1 right now. So I'm going to take these other 2 and just slide them onto the next needle. And then continue knitting in the front and back of each stitch all the way for needles 2, 3, and 4, and you should end up with 18 stitches on each needle. And if you count as you go, if you want them evenly distributed, you can put 18 on each needle. So here we have the base of our ball hugger. So here's row 11 complete. Okay, row 12 is going to start the body, but this right here is going to be the bottom part of your ball hugger. Now this is your tail, and I'll show you at the end where we're going to weave this in to close up this circle, and then this will be the bottom. Okay? All right, so we're gonna work on the body now. And what we're gonna need for the body is we're gonna need our US 2s. Okay. And we're gonna need our contrasting color. Just keep one in there at a time, and I'm not using my main color, so I'm just going to let that roll away for a minute. Now for row 12, because we ended on row 11, so row 12 we're going to be moving on to our US 2s. So I'm going to pick up a US 2. I'm done with my US 1s. I'm going to pick up a US 2, and I'm going to knit all of the stitches with my contrasting color. I'm just going to leave a couple of inches, just enough to weave this in. Okay, so I have both my tails down here. It's just enough to weave in the contrasting color. Now for needle 1, the one with my stitch marker, and my size 2 needle, I'm going to knit with my contrasting color. Okay, and I do the weave and steven for about 4 or 5. Of course, I've already tucked my tail in, so that's awkward. I'll just tuck it back in there here in a minute. But I do that just so that it's not super loose. So there's 3, and I am just knitting them off of my US 1s onto my US 2s. Okay, so this will be number 5. I'll knit the rest of the way across needle 1. So row 13, using our contrasting color, we're just going to knit all the way around. Not with US 1, US 2. Knit all the way around. Okay, so row 14, we're going to pick up our main color again. So I'm going to bring my contrast color all the way over to the left. I'm going to pick up my contrasting, or my main color. I'm going to switch them in my bowl just because that's what I'm doing here. Okay. Pick up my main color. And now this is going to be row 14. Okay, with my main color, I'm going to knit, and I'm going to just hold my contrasting color out of the way to keep my tension really well. I'm going to knit 3 . 1, 2, 3, and then I'm going to slip 1. I'm going to slip it purlwise, okay, from the left to the right. I'm going to knit 3, 1, 2, 3. I'm going to slip 1 stitch purlwise. I'm going to do that all the way around. One, 2, 3, slip. Sorry, I went off screen there. 1, 2. Okay, so that was row 14. Now rows 15 and 16 are going to be the exact same thing, okay? So you're going to knit 3 and then slip the same stitch. Knit 3, slip the same stitch. Okay, so rows 14 and 15 are going to look exactly like row 14. You're slipping the exact same stitch that you did on row 14. 16 is just the same. You're slipping the exact same stitch as you did in rows 14 and 15. Okay, something I do want to take a minute to explain is I have my stitch marker in the middle of my needle 1. So this is needle 1 and I have my stitch marker right in the middle. Now I know DPNs are not for everybody. So if you're using a 9-inch circular or you're using a magic loop, your stitch marker would be right here to mark beginning of round. Okay, so your stitch marker would be before this first stitch that I have on my needle 1. I just like to put it somewhere on needle 1 just to remind me that this is the beginning. This is the first needle that I worked on. Okay, so your stitch marker may be in a different place, but you want to make sure you know what your stitch marker means. For me, this is my needle 1. This is where I start the beginning of my new row. If you're doing a 9-inch circular, maybe your stitch marker is right here. This is where you begin. It's the same stitch you're starting your pattern on. Just know that you have your stitch marker where it makes sense for you, because I do know not everybody enjoys DPNs. I personally prefer them. So just make sure you know what you're doing with your stitch marker. Okay, so for rows 17 and 18 with my main color, okay, I'm going to knit all stitches all the way around for rows 17 and 18. Okay. Including the slip stitch. I'm going to knit all the stitches all the way around with my main color. Row 18, we're going to knit as well. Okay, row 19, we're going to use our contrasting color. So I need to move my main color out, and I'm bringing my main color over the top, and then I'm grabbing my contrasting color. Putting my contrasting color in my bowl. Okay, so for row 19, with my contrasting color, I'm gonna knit all stitches. I'm just gonna hold my main color out of the way, just making sure I keep a little bit of tension as I just knit. You see how I'm just going over the top? Okay, and I'm just gonna knit all stitches with my contrasting color. Okay, so row 21, I'm going to be using my main color again. So I'm going to take my contrasting color, pull it over the top, and grab my main color and pull it underneath. You see that? Got my contrast color going over the top and pulling my main color underneath. And I'm going to switch these in my yarn bowl. So for row 21, with my main color, okay, I'm gonna hold my contrasting color out of the way, just keeping tension so that this stitch doesn't get super loose, okay, with my main color coming over the top. Row 21, I'm gonna knit one, and then I'm gonna slip one purlwise. Okay, and now I'm gonna knit 3 and slip 1 to the last 2 stitches. So knit 3, and then slip 1. Okay, so I'm at my last 2 stitches. I knit 3 and slipped 1 all the way around to my last 2. Now I'm just gonna knit these 2. 1, 2. Okay. So that was row 21. Rows 22 and 23 are going to be exactly the same. So what you knit on the previous round, you're going to knit on the next 2 rounds. If you slipped it, you're going to slip it. Okay? So you can just follow what you did on the previous round. You don't even have to count. You're doing exactly the same thing that you did on the previous round. Row 23 is the same as 21 and 22. Okay, row 24 with your main color, which you've just finished using with your main color, row 24, you're going to knit all stitches all the way around. That was row 24. Row 25 is going to be knit with the main color all the way around. Okay, so that is row 25. Okay. Here is what we've got so far. Now we're going to repeat rows 12 to 25 2 more times. Okay, so we're going to start at row 12 and repeat from 12 to 25 twice more, and I'll check back here. Okay, so I have finished the second repeat. This was our original. So then this is the second time I've gone through rows 12 through 25. So I'm going to go ahead and do 12 through 25 one more time, and I'll meet you back here. Okay, so we have our original set of 12 to 25, and then our second repeat or first repeat, however you want to count them. I have 3 sets of 12 to 25. Now, if you would like yours a little bit taller, so this is going to be for a 50-gram ball. So a skein of yarn that's 50 grams, you cake it up and you put it in here. That's the size. So if you wanted to do it a little bit taller, like maybe just a little bit taller, you would want to repeat from rows 12 to row 20. Or no, row 12 to 18. Okay, so if you wanted to make yours just a little bit taller, you could do a rows 12 to 18, or you could do another whole repeat if you wanted to keep going, obviously. I'm gonna stop here though. Okay, so for row 26, what we're gonna do is we're going to knit 2, 1, 2, then we're going to knit 2 together. And knit 2, 1, 2, knit 2 together. And we're going to do that all the way around. Okay, so that is the end of row 26. Now we can break our contrasting color. Okay, we're done with that. And we are going to be going back on to our US ones. Okay. So I'm going to be going back onto our US ones from US twos as we work this next row. All right. And we're going to knit 1, purl 1. And I'm going to do the weave in Steven. Going back onto my US ones. Knit 1, purl 1. Knit 1, and purl 1. Knit 1 all the way around. So make sure you stay in pattern. So I ended needle 2 with a knit stitch. So I needed to start needle 3 with a purl stitch. So we gotta stay and we gotta pay attention. So we knit 1, purl 1, even if that pattern is getting split between the 2 needles. Purl, knit, purl, knit, purl, knit. Purl. Knit. Okay, so that is row 27. Now we are going to stay in that pattern and knit rows 28 through 36 in this ribbing pattern. Knit, purl, all the way through row 36. Okay. And then I'll meet you back here. I'm gonna have to pull that out. I don't like that in there. That's from that end. It's because I tried to do that weave and Steven and I didn't need to. There we go. Okay, so we're gonna do a purl here. So we're just going to continue in this ribbing fashion. Knit 1, purl 1 with our main color on our US ones for rows 28 through 36. Okay, and I'll meet you back here. All right, so just finished row 36 of my ribbing. Now we're going to bind off. And the way I like to bind off, it's a pretty stretchy bind off. And I knit 1 stitch, and I'm going to zoom in a little bit. Okay, so you knit 1 stitch. And then you take your working yarn and you're going to go over the top of the needle. So now you have the first stitch you knit and the yarn going over the top. And then you're going to knit your next stitch. And if you can hear Alex playing, she's at her Lego table. And then we're going to take these 2 stitches and pull them over the second stitch that we knit. So I'm back to 1 stitch. I'm going to wrap the yarn over the top of that working needle, knit my 2nd stitch, and then take the 1st knit stitch and the yarn over, pull it over the 2nd knit stitch. Again, I've got 1 stitch on the needle, go over the top, knit my 2nd one, pull these 2, oops, don't want to split it. Over the top of the 2nd stitch I knit. Okay, so we're just going to do that all the way around. Okay, so I'm at the last one. I'm gonna wrap it over the top, knit my last stitch, pull the first 2 on the right needle over the 3rd, and I have 1 stitch left. See that? Now I'm gonna break my yarn, pull it through. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna turn it inside out so that I can weave in this red end that I had pushed through the bottom, this end here where I ended with my contrasting color, as well as this end here that I just ended with my main color. So let's get our tapestry needle. You can hear Alex in there playing with her Legos. I love it. I wish I had a smaller, oh, I do have a smaller one. We'll use this one. Come on, Tony.
So however you like to weave in your ends, get your ends woven in, all of them except for the very first cast on edge. Okay. So that's what my goal is I'm gonna weave in this end, this main color, both of my contrasting ends, and I'll meet you back here. Okay, so now we're going to turn it right side out, and we have this end right here. Okay, that was our cast on edge. We made it extra long. Now we have to weave that in and cinch this bottom closed. Or maybe it doesn't matter to you if it's completely closed, but you got to weave this end in, and I tend to go around the little circle that I created when I cast it on, just to kind of stabilize that circle. So I just kind of feed it through each one of these stitches. And I love that it's so easy. I mean, normally I would use this metal tapestry needle, but with the size 1 needle that we were using to cast on, these stitches are really tight, and this plastics, it kind of catches it. Like, it's not a smooth feeding of the yarn, but it does bend a little bit and collapse for these thinner stitches. Okay, so once I have that hole closed up, I'm gonna find a spot really close to the edge. And I'm sorry if you can hear barking, that would be my neighbor's dog. And no telling when those neighbors will quiet the dogs. Okay, so here is our medium size, perfect for a 50-gram skein. And yeah, I started with 13 grams of the contrasting color. I now have 11. And I started with, I believe, 14 of the mint green. And I now have, let me double check. I now have 5. So that's not too bad. I will let you guys know the pattern will be available on the Ko-fi page with the medium, the large, as well as the small. So there we go, you guys. I hope you enjoy.
Okay, so we have our mini ball hugger for 20 gram. I did put a 20 gram mini in here. There's plenty of room. This is the open bottom. This is the medium. I have a 50 grams skein in here, 50 gram skein of cotton. This is the closed bottom. And then this here is the large ball hugger with the open bottom. And it's got 100 gram skein in here right now. And I mean, there's still plenty of room to stretch. So it wasn't a huge fight to get it in there. But yeah, there we go. We've got the small, medium, and large.